So this is a picture of me at my graduation. So hopefully some of you might get an in-person graduation. Um, all right, so I'm gonna go over how I built my resume. So during my undergrad years, some of the ways that I built my resume is I got a campus job. So I worked as a peer advisor. It was a good job to have because it demonstrated that I was able to communicate well with other people and also just know a lot of like depth about my own major so that I could help other people in their future careers and like what they wanted to do once they graduated out of UC Davis. I also served as a grader for a class that I already took. So that was a computer applications class. And so after I took the class, they emailed everyone saying, hey, if anyone got an A or above, you can serve as an intern for the class afterwards. And then you can put that on your resume and you get units to do it. And so that was a really good opportunity because I was able to put it on my resume and say, hey, not only did I get an A in this class, but I was able to demonstrate I am solid in these Excel skills in Python, Microsoft Access, and I'm able to teach other people and also grade their papers. Um, some other things that I did while I was an undergrad is I got other online certificates to gain more skills, such as basic coding classes, video editing, Excel. That's just helpful because it just gives more evidence that you have those skills and that there's an actual credential behind the skills that you're putting on your resume. And you can also talk about it with the interviewer if you get an interview. I also had a diverse set of clubs and interests that I was involved in. I was in Aggie Studios, which is the like TV production student org for UC Davis. I was in Permias, which is the Indonesian Students Association, and I also volunteered for COIN, so hosting this webinar. And COIN is actually where I met my PwC mentor named Jocelyn. I also joined a campus club related to my future profession, Davis Accounting Society, and it was actually at the Davis Accounting Society Career Fair where I got my internship with PwC. So I actually heard about this career fair from my PwC mentor at Coin. She told me that, hey, you should go to the career fair. It's a great way to get your foot in the door. And actually, the line for PwC, I think there were about 200 people in line to talk to the recruiter. But she had prepared me beforehand by telling me to print out my resume, bring it with me. So I was ready to hand it to the recruiter and to talk to her about it. But also, she also coached me, Jocelyn coached me to, after the meeting the recruiter, to actually send a personal email to the recruiter saying, hey, it was really nice meeting you. Um, Again, I'm Christy. I'm really excited about the internship opportunity that you have. And so the recruiter actually was really surprised that I emailed her personally after the event. And so that helped me stand out amongst the sea of 200 people that were there. And she sent me a direct link to apply for the internship. And then from that internship, after that summer, they offered me my full-time job. So I highly recommend joining something that's related, going to those career fairs because you never know where that might take you. And so some takeaways from that would be aim to be a constant learner, take on new skills, try to kind of beef up your resume with other skills that may not be natural or like you wouldn't acquire them in your own major. And so also have someone who has taken the road before you to show you the ropes. So I was really thankful for my mentor Jocelyn in order to really coach me through what to do, how to do it, because I don't really think that I would have gotten the internship if not for her advice. Okay, so we'll go straight into the resume tips for today. So 7.4. So 7.4 is a number I want you to remember. So recruiters take an average of 7.4 seconds to read a resume. They briefly scan it. They're looking for keywords. They already memorize the job description that you're applying for. So they're just trying to see if you're a match for this. And so it's really important to make a good impression with what they are presented with. So the first thing that I would emphasize is really important to your resume is the format. And so this is an example of my resume. And so I would like to recommend that, especially if you're in college or a fresh graduate, you would want to keep it to one page. Make sure it's neatly organized, not too many font choices, nothing too crazy, too max, and then have consistent branding in terms of your name. Like say if you are a John Smith, like there are hundreds of John Smiths in the world, if not thousands. And so if you have, say, a middle name, say you're John L. Smith, make sure that everything matches, that your resume says John L. Smith, and then your email, your LinkedIn profile, everything should match. If you have a unique name, which I'm lucky to have, it's really easy because none of your usernames are like taken beforehand. And so just make sure everything's consistent so it's easier for recruiters to get in touch with you. It also just helps your personal brand and help you establish that. Include your LinkedIn URL, that's super important. And if you don't have a LinkedIn profile yet, I highly encourage you to, after we log off, go start one. It's not very difficult to do. You can log in using your Facebook or your Gmail account. So I highly recommend you start that. Another tip that I would recommend is to utilize sections. The order will depend on the field and the position that you're applying for. So for example, for my resume here, because I have more work experience now, I put my work experience on the top and then my education comes later. But say if you're like applying for a PhD program or a master's program, your education would be more important, so it would go on top. So it really depends on the field that you're going into and also the position that you're applying for. So that is kind of, it would depend. Okay, so that was with regards to format, because 7.4 seconds is a really quick way that you can kind of show that you're competent and you can make a nice looking resume. Look, you can also just ask people for their feedback. They'll be like, no, I don't like the font. I think that would be really helpful to get feedback from someone else. And so we're going to move forward with the actual meat of the content. So with content, one thing that I really recommend that you do is to review your resume and try to see, do all my bullets have this sort of structure to it? This is called the PAR method. So you should identify a problem, the action that you took, and then the results. And so this is a very concrete way in demonstrating that not only were you presented with certain responsibilities or certain like issues, you were able to take action, take initiative, and also benefit your company or your worker or your like your department, whether it's a campus job or not, in some way. And then another advice that I would give is to quantify it, as many numbers that you have on hand that you can say, I worked with 3 people to organize this event that hosted 200 people. Like the more you can quantify it, the more concrete and real it looks, and it just gives more evidence that you are competent in this area. So these are just some examples. So highlighted in red, highlighted in yellow, and then highlighted in green. So the problem was labor expenses was too high. So what did you do? You took action to develop a new filing and organizational practice, and the result is that you saved the company $3,000 a year. Okay, another tip that I would give for content is I want you to be able to take words that are passive in your resume and use action words instead, such as achieved, managed, resolved, launched. So one example here is schedule employee travel logistics. It sounds kind of passive because I mean, granted, that is your job and that's like one of your responsibilities in your position, but you can beef it up by saying, I provided company-wide logistical support and coordination, including travel and paperwork. It just sounds a lot more impressive, even though it's literally the same thing. These are small ways that you can spruce up your resume. This is an article that I found really helpful of 185 powerful verbs that will make your resume awesome. So we'll provide the slides afterwards. Your mentors can send all of these to you, so you don't have to worry about screenshotting or taking notes. So yeah, we'll be providing this to you afterwards. This is a fun example that I wrote up for any Harry Potter fans. So one example would be Harry Potter won the great battle against Voldemort and co. Like that's great, right? But if you could use action words such as I killed a basilisk with the Gryffindor sword and destroyed the Horcrux, and like I don't know, the recruiter might not know what a Horcrux is, and you kind of explain it's a piece of Voldemort's soul. As a second year, that's when you did it. And then I fought 100 Dementors single-handedly to protect the lives of myself and several others on my team. So you quantified it, you made it active, you demonstrated what the problem was, what the action was, and what the result was. Some additional advice and tips that I would want to give to you is to gain some work experience while you're in college. It doesn't look too good when your resume has like one job, unless it's like you really like did many years in it or you gain a lot of different breadth of experience. I think just volunteering even to help youth or high school students or joining mentorship programs to help other students in different ways. I think that's a great way to kind of beef up your resume. Another advice that a mentor gave me is to keep a running log of every new experience, internship, or volunteer opportunity that you have. This is called a CV or a curriculum vitae. You wouldn't really submit this in any job application, but it's just something that you have on hand so that you have a running log of everything in case, say, this job, you only want to copy paste certain sections and not others. Another thing that I would recommend is to keep your LinkedIn up to date. So after each project, you should ask for feedback and endorse your other teammates and reflect over the experience. So this is a screenshot of my skills and endorsements section in my LinkedIn. So what I did was, as I did each job or internship, I just endorsed other people who worked with me. I was like, no, like say Sydney's really good at communication, whatever, and I like write reviews for her. And then in turn, it really helps build that connection because she's more than willing to give feedback for me. And then when a recruiter looks at my resume, it's like, wow, okay, so 20 people say that she's good at interpersonal communication and 8 of them actually worked with her. So it just gives a lot of evidence that you're credentialed in this area or this skill. So we're going to go over one example resume here. So this is an actual resume example from my friend. And so we can go over it together. If you notice anything that could be improved about the resume, you could feel free to chat it out based on what we've talked about so far. It could do with either the format, it could do with the content, anything. How would you improve this? Okay, Miranda's saying it looks pretty dense. Yeah, it's not very easy to read at all. If a recruiter only has 7.4 seconds to read that, it's like really wordy. Yeah. Mayo said, yeah, less wording would be good. The actions are in more of a list, so there should be some sentences about the results exactly. They only talked about the responsibilities. Wrong spelling and inconsistent in lower upper letter, that is correct. Like that gives a headache, right, to read lower uppercase. And also, I don't know if it's a wrong spelling or if it's a specific like company specific thing that they had to do, like documents. I'm not sure what that is, but most people like you and I don't know what a document is, so they should have explained what that was. And yeah, Sheila said make bullet points. That would make it a lot easier to read. So I can debrief this example. So this is how we would be able to fix it. I didn't get to add bullet points next to the bullets, but that's what I intended to do. So one thing that you should do is you should put your title first. No one it's important where you work, but it's more important what title you held at that company. So you can say receptionist first and then at DMG Mori, and then you can put your location and how long you were there outside. And yeah, keep it out of the body. It's just easier so that when they're looking down at the different positions you held, it's easy to read chronologically and location wise where you were. Use bullets and you quantify the number. So I think this would be a great way to apply what we learned today about, yeah, how many team members did you help? How many countries? How many flights did you book? What number of a budget did you work with? And also having more active action verbs such as completed, managed, drafted, coordinated, assisted. Yeah, and substituting company-specific terminology with generally known terms. So this was a really quick and brief intro into resume help and how to improve it. But if you have any questions, feel free to chat them out and I'll start answering them. And also I'll hand it back to Sydney.
All right, thank you so much, Christy. That was really helpful. I hope that it helped you guys out with just all the different tips that she guys gave you, and also with that last example. I thought that was really helpful too. So before we end, I just wanted to give you guys more of a detailed explanation or detailed information on what Thrive actually is. So Thrive Mentorship is a program that's hosted by volunteer upperclassmen and alumni. So we felt that this past year was overall pretty hard given so much happening with just COVID and all of that. And so we wanted to help you guys out in any way possible. So this program is completely free. So the mentors volunteered to meet up for 4 weekly sessions, 30, and it can be about whichever track.
Hey guys, name's Garrett. I'm one of the Thrive mentors. I see that Sydney, our host,
Here
is
just to help you guys. So if you guys would like to sign up or you're not sure if you did yet, you can do so. You can do so right now. So Garrett just put the link inside the chat box. So feel free to just click on it and sign up for it if you guys are interested. And so mentorship is actually going to be kicking off tomorrow on Wednesday. So please be sure to check your emails because that's how your mentors are going to reach out to you, or they have already. So just please check your inbox if you are sure that you already have signed up, so then you guys can communicate through there. And that is pretty much it. So I'll just give you guys just a little bit of time to sign up if you guys have not already. And for those who have submitted their resumes in for one-on-one resume help for tonight, we will actually break you guys out into a breakout room in just a second so that you guys can actually get the help that you guys want. And then for those that want to stay for a Q&A time with Christy, where she can answer any questions that you guys have regarding to resume, regarding to how she got the job that she got, anything within that realm, you guys can stay within the main session. All right, and that concludes tonight's webinar. Thank you so much for coming. So yeah, for those that need help with the resumes, just join the breakout room. All right.
Okay, I think the first question that I see on my chat is Deborah's asking, what does the second bullet point from the previous slide mean? So previous slide. So the second bullet point, are you asking about verb X and Y resulting in Z?
The bullet points on the left, which says the one that says keep location duration on the body use code.
Okay. Gotcha. So here in this original example, before we fix the resume, it says receptionist, May 2019 to present. And then Davis CA is right here. So my recommendation is to keep the location and the duration of the job outside of the main body of the role, and then to move it out into a separate column so that it's neat and pointed out. And so as you look down a resume, like this is the position, this is the location and how long you were there for, and so on and so forth. It just keeps it neater. It's harder for a recruiter to try to look for how long was that person there for, like when did they leave. And so if they kept jumping around to try to look for it, it just makes their job easier to pick it out.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. And then the next question that Mayo asked is, what is something that stands out the most in a job resume? Is it the work experience, internship, or it depends? So I think that would, in general, work experience speaks a lot because you're at that job for longer, and then like that's what they're interested in, what you regularly do. Internships are shorter, but usually if you have special accomplishments during that resume, it's really helpful because then like they could see that, okay, actually that internship was really remarkable. They accomplished special projects. They made a difference there, even in that 2-month period. So I can go back to like my example of my resume, and I can just tell just a story about my interview. So it's very common that during interviews where I've had them just walk through my resume and they specifically like point out like, what was this? What was that? What was this? Tell me about this. What was your experience there? And so for one of the positions that I interviewed for, what I did was they actually asked me a lot about my peer advisor job. So they were like, okay, so you're a peer advisor for Man Econ. Like, tell us about that. Like, are there any issues that you come across or leading students and then you have to like solve it, and how did you advise them? So I had to talk at length about it. But then like during my my recent interview for this next opportunity that I'm going to do with Zillow, they actually asked me about my internship. So my internship at PwC. So even though I work at PwC for 2 years now, they still asked about this because they thought it was significant that I was working with SQL and Tableau, because my new position is actually about like um, data analysis and making workflows more efficient. So then they were very interested in that internship particularly. And so they asked me about what that project was about. And so I elaborated at length. So it really depends. And so what would be helpful is that you should look at the job description and see what they point out, and try to look at your CV and pick out what would apply for this job, because you're trying to show them that, okay, I'm not going to write my resume to match the job description. Like, I'm not going to write a job description as my resume. I'm trying to pitch that what I have and what I'm credentialed in, it satisfies what you want. Like, I'm the person that you want for the job. And then Miranda asked, do you have any advice on how to write cover letters? Yes. So cover letters, I found my very embarrassing first cover letter recently, and it's very long. So at most, like, make it brief. Write, like, if you don't know who the hiring manager is, if you do and you can stalk them and you can find their name, great. Like, address it to dear Miranda Loweb. Like, that's great. You could do that. But if you don't, you can just say, dear hiring manager. It's completely fine. It's an industry standard. And then all you have to do is just write like one simple paragraph to write, like, hi, like, my name is Christy. I found this job, how? Like, I was referred to by this person, or I met you at the career fair. And it's a short one paragraph pitch of why you think you're fit for the job. So it's short and no more than a page. Never send a cover letter longer than a page. Okay, Deborah asked, do you usually leave out your high school GPA? Usually, yes. Especially if you're already in college, likely you are already you're good, right? Like, you got into one of the best public schools in the country. I think that says a lot about you already. So usually it's not necessary to include your high school GPA. I mean, if you were valedictorian or you were like an honor scholar or something, you could add it. So like, for example, in my resume, I didn't put my numerical GPA anymore, but I did indicate that I was an honors. So that is something that you can kind of indicate without having to quantify it, especially when you're in the working world. If you're already like 2-3 years, even like 5 years into the working world, they really don't want to see the GPA anymore, usually. Kavjeet asked, where will these slides be available? So I think the individual mentors will be able to send them to you. So if you do sign up during the link that I had at the end of the slide, and I think it's also in the chat, a mentor will be able to email them directly to you. Oh, Garrett already answered that question. So Evelyn asked, how do you create a resume with no work experience? I've been looking at applying for jobs to gain experience, but they require a resume. So I do not know how to create one without having had an actual job. Okay, so this is a common experience that I had. So my first real job was in college. I don't think I had a real job before that, but there were projects. So when I applied to be a peer advisor as a sophomore in college, I was like, I don't know what to put on my resume. But what I did put was, I did do like different summer things that I did. So one thing that I did over the summer was I helped like some ambassador, like it was just a really small project. It's because they knew my dad, and my dad knew that I did like photography and video editing. So my task was to go through her vacation pictures and sort and organize them and just like clean through them and label them. Like, it wasn't anything impressive, but I put that on my resume. It showed that, like, I'm responsible. I have these like small skills. I also put like different little projects that I did for like my parents, like whether it's like making like because my parents, they were a wedding photography, like my dad was a wedding photographer. So I just talked about how I like used Instagram to cut and edit like short like videos to show their work and like stuff like that. So even those things you can put on a resume. If you did anything over the summer, if you had any interest, if you had any things that you helped other people with, it may not have been an official position you applied for, but you could write it down, like you were an assistant, or you were an intern, or you were a helper, or something like that. So I hope that's helpful. Usually, I know that when you're a freshman or a sophomore, you don't have any you don't have much experience in those first 2 years, but you can also do, like I said, like start looking at online certificates that you could put, that you can take the courses and then you can put on your resume. You could start volunteering as like a mentor for high school students. Things like that, I think could help build your resume up. Asking, so we can add positions we held in clubs like VP or sports teams. Yes, definitely. You can definitely talk about that, and you can have like maybe 1 or 2 bullets about that. There's a question about, do we need to add a self-portrait of ourselves? Is that necessary? My answer is no. If you look at most job websites asking about like resume or teaching you how to write a resume, usually do not put a picture. But it depends, because I'm actually from Indonesia, so I came here as a college student as a freshman. But their standard in that country is that they expect you to attach a passport photo onto the resume. But in America, I think generally the answer is no. I think another thing is because you don't know how the recruiter might be biased, or have biases against you. We live in a broken world. People are biased, and so we don't know how they might judge you unfairly based on your self-portrait. Yeah, no problem.
All right, guys. Thank you so much, Christy. That was so helpful. I hope that she was able to answer a lot of your questions. So if you guys have any other questions about resume building or anything regarding to just anything relating to college, yeah, just please let us know. We're really here to help you guys. So there is an option within the mentorship track that you guys can be able to ask any of us anything relating to anything regarding to resumes even, or anything regarding to your major or even career options. So yeah, just hopefully that mentorship will help you guys. So if you guys are still interested and you still have a lot of questions, that is really where you guys can reach us, and that we can really spend more time with you guys on a more individualized setting. So yeah, hopefully that you guys, hopefully that this helped you guys, and we hope to see you guys soon through mentorship, through Thrive. So thank you for coming. All right.